Hello, Rise Up Visionaries. I'm Susan May, and I'm here today with a very special guest. We met through Facebook, as people seem to do these days. Julie Mink on Facebook, and I meant to ask you, is that like the proper full name? Because I know some people have different names on Facebook. Is that a good name to go by?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my name. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we met through mutual friends, and Julie is an awesome kick butt homeschool mom who helps other homeschool moms, which I love to connect with people like this. And I've been wanting to chat with her for a while, and so we finally sat down and chatted last week, and I said, let's get on and just share some information with people. So welcome today, Julie.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you for having me here.
Of course. I would love to start kind of like with your origin story, because I think I am always fascinated with people's stories, and I know it helps other people. Like, how did you get to this place of homeschooling, which seems so radical, but more and more people are getting there? And I know you were a public school teacher, which I was also, and I think a lot of people don't realize how many homeschoolers it's a high percentage were actually teachers, and that tells you something about the system. So if you could just kind of give us your background.
Correct. Yes, there are a lot of teachers, former teachers who are homeschool parents. And some people will think, oh, well, that's because you know how to do it. So you're comfortable doing it. You know you can do it. But like you said, that's not really the reason. The reason is we've seen how the system works and we don't want our kids in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, my origin story. So being a teacher, so it's funny because as a person who loved school so much, I wanted to be a teacher, right? I loved school. I loved the first day of school, the last day of school, every day in between. I loved my friends. I loved my teachers. I loved my work, the work that I did. I loved everything about it. I loved doing school. But here I am today helping families transition away from public school. And so, yeah, how did I get here? Being a teacher, I decided I knew exactly what my kids' education was going to look like before they were even born. I had it all planned out. And then I had friends who were having babies and going down the path before I was ready. And one of them had a homeschool experience. And that's how it got on my radar. It never would have been on my radar, if not for this family. Yeah. And she gave me a book called Homeschooling Our Children, Unschooling Ourselves, I think it's called. It's a little memoir. It's like a green book. It's really thin, a little memoir. Do you know it?
Well, so when you said, so
let me look it up.
Naomi Aldort wrote Raising Our Children, Raising Ourselves, and it sounds like that title's a little bit of a spin-off of that. So I wonder if someone had read her book. Okay.
Right. Let me see.
I had not read that one.
Let me see. Yeah, it's it's called Homeschooling Our Children, Unschooling Ourselves. Allison McKee is the author.
Okay.
And it's small. It's a thin memoir about her experience. And in it, she recalls, or she's a teacher. She recalls her education in college, preparing for being a teacher. And they read John Holt's How Children Fail. And I'm reading this book, I'm reading the memoir, and I'm like, why does this book, How Children Fail, sound so familiar to me? Why is it so familiar? And then it dawns on me, oh my goodness, I actually read this in my teacher preparation courses as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And what I think a lot of people didn't know, and I didn't know at the time, was that John Holt was an educator in the system before he became like the father of the modern homeschooling movement, right? Yeah. So, and, you know, like a lot of other educators who were there, he thought that he could change the system. He was there for reform and, you know, recognizing the ways in which children learn best. And so, so things just started clicking, and I said, let's give this a try. And my husband was like, absolutely not, no way. And it was funny because these were his friends and they were his really good friends, and we loved their kids, and their kids were so bright and so personable and so outgoing and so calm and comfortable in their own, like everything you would want, like
Yeah.
and we could see the closeness in their family and
Yeah.
how valuable, all the things. And he was like, absolutely not my kid. But, I had a toddler and a baby, so I knew I had some time. And
Mhm.
so, but it didn't take long. We got involved with the homeschool community, and that's kind of how I got started doing what I'm doing. So even more of my origin story there. I realized that my husband's concern about socialization weren't necessary about the kids' socialization, but ours as well as parents. Like, where's our social support network
Mhm.
as a community?
Yep.
So I got really involved in community-oriented, community action type stuff. And it's been really awesome. The more I put into it, the better our experience has been. So,
Yeah.
and that's kind of how I ended up here doing this kind of stuff, and um, offering events for homeschoolers, and creating community through my local group, Marin Homeschoolers,
Yeah.
and having been on the board of directors
Mhm.
for our statewide organization and a volunteer. you know, I just, this is what I like to do.
That's awesome. Yeah, you hit on
Thanks.
so many things there. Like, first of all, it's like you read my notes here, because I was gonna ask you about your husband, Rich, being the skeptic, because my husband is
Yeah.
also a skeptic. So I think that's a fairly common hurdle that families have to face. And it's not
Mhm.
always, the wife is the one on board and the husband. Sometimes it's the opposite. I actually have another friend, very good friend, whose
Right.
husband really wanted to homeschool. And so it is something that you have to work through if you don't have the same vision for your family. And I was in the same boat as you. I was very lucky. I started reading these resources when my daughter was 18 months old. And so I had until she was 5. And Sandra Dodd, who we've spoken about, I started reading her page on Yahoo groups, because there was no Facebook group back then. And she just gives really grounded advice. And she always says, I love her analogy of like homeschooling, and for her, unschooling is like buying a yacht. You don't just go and buy the yacht without consulting with your partner. And she really emphasizes the importance of like a strong family, especially a mother, father, or whoever the partnership is, that relationship that, you don't just buy, like, people get very excited, especially about unschooling, which I understand, because I was super, super duper excited. But you have to realize, like, you're presenting these ideas, and especially like if you're the one like home with the kids and the other partner's off working, making the money, it can take a long time for them to kind of start to grasp it. So I think it's so great what you said, like, it's, taking a step at a time, like not pushing things so much, like being slow about it. And also, if you're open, like, one of the best things I did was write my husband a letter saying, well, I know that you really want to try, like that you have school in your mind, and I'm not like against it, like not putting ourselves against each other, right? Like, but saying like,
Right.
can we try this or can we try that, that we can be open-minded about it. So I love that you shared that about your husband. And then the community aspect, what you were just saying, because you're right. Like, I think us homeschoolers, we get really defensive about the socialization thing, because it's like, there's, you can get into all the arguments. Like, there's awkward people in school too, which, okay, that's true. But I've come to realize, like, it's not, it doesn't do people a service to tell them that there aren't any challenges. There are challenges. Like, people do sometimes struggle to find community and to find really good friends for their kids. And what I like to tell people is, especially because my family, we've moved a lot. And so like you've been in the same place, right? So it's been
Mhm.
easier. If you have
Yeah.
roots down, you have to try, and then you have to try again. You can't give up. Like, you just got to keep putting yourself out there. And if you get tired, you got to take a break, and that's
Mhm.
okay. But, for your kids, because I'm a social person, you're right. And so your husband's concerned. There are times when it feels like, oh, that school just feels easy, right? There's been so many times where it feels like the easy answer. And I always remind myself, like, it's not just an easy answer. It doesn't mean you put your kids in and everything will be okay. There's so many lonely kids at school getting bullied or like, whatever. Just because they're around a whole bunch of other kids doesn't mean they're going to have this amazing social life. So I love that you shared all that. Yeah, let's talk about, because you're starting to talk about, what you offer. So your website is tentoad.com. So that's easy to remember, everyone. 10, just like the number TEN, toad, TOAD.com. Maybe you could tell
Right.
us a little bit about the name Ten Toad, because people are probably like, what? What's Ten Toad?
That's funny. Yeah, we get that question a lot. It, we were starting the business at the very start of the pandemic. I was shifting to online events, and after having done a whole bunch of in-person events through the nonprofit I started, Marin Homeschoolers, which I dissolved at the beginning of the pandemic. And in order for me to continue to run a legitimate, outfit here, I needed some sort of entity in which to run a business. At this point, I decided to go for profit, and we just wanted to get up and running real quick because we had such a great program to offer online to all these suddenly new homeschoolers. And I'm the worst at naming things, and I couldn't come up with anything worth anything. And my husband overnight, like, well, wakes up one morning, he's like, I got it. It's 10 toed. And I was like, sure. So yeah, it was I like to call it he was working on his dad joke skills and his pun and sharpening his pun skills as a dad, because he's really good at that. He's, I think it's like a bone in their body or something. Like they just
Totally.
does it. So yeah, and I like to think of it like, what, when you're homeschooling, and sometimes when you get to homeschooling, you've got to kiss a lot of frogs till you get to your prince. You got to figure out a lot of different things that are going to work for you or not work for you, and what you think is going to be the best isn't the best, and you get to shift gears and find your prince, your perfect mate.
Yes, I love that, because one of the FAQs you have, how do I homeschool? And one of the lines was, in short, there's no short answer. And I was like, yes, you're right. And it's more about, that's why it's so important in business. I know I've been learning so much about business the past couple of years, and they're always telling you, you have to know your why, because if you know your why, you'll stick with something when it gets hard or uncomfortable, or you think nothing's going right, and everyone has days like that. And then we tend to try and like blame it on something. Well, it's because I homeschool, or it's, this or that. I'm just no good at this. And if you know why you're doing it, and people right now have very strong whys, I think, because of what's gone on in the world. They know that they want something better and more for their children. So you have to always remember that. And you're so right. It's like, keep trying, keep kissing that next frog and that next frog. And like you said, there's so many different ways to homeschool and find the perfect path for your family. So I love that you're helping people do that. So let's just talk about, what are some different ways that you support people then?
Okay. So we started out doing online events, and they were awesome, and they are awesome. And then recently we shifted to our first in-person hybrid event. So it's a 4-day, 3 nights in Santa Ynez Valley, California, Homeschool Connection Conference, we're calling it. And there's also, the entire in-person conference will be streamed online. And we also have additional online only content that will be happening over the weekend before and the weekend after the in-person event. And all of it gets recorded, and all of it gets sent to all the registered attendees. And so there are options to attend in person or online only. And so that's like been what I've been working on solely for the last, 6 to 8 months. But I also do consultations, mostly local stuff, because I really like to meet with people face to face. But I'll do a Zoom or a phone call. Some people are like, no more Zoom, phone calls, please.
Right. Yeah.
So so I'll do consultations. I've also consulted with, well, not just parents, but small groups, people who want to start an educational alternative, people who want to, like, vendors and educators who want to connect with the homeschool community and better serve the homeschool community and better understand the homeschool community. So yeah, I've done a lot of different roles as consult person,
Yeah.
consultant. That would be, let's say,
Yes,
consultant.
yes. And I love how your goal is just to like help families transition confidently and to feel
Right.
good about that path. That is awesome. And
Right,
very,
right.
very in a line like with my mission is to help people like unplug from those, you know, mainstream
Right.
ways of doing things and to feel, you know, like they're not lost and
Right.
alone.
Right.
So
Right. Well, I
yeah,
was going to say, it is my experience that when you are talking with a new homeschool parent, really all they need is that first conversation, that first like comprehensive conversation that answers all their questions and gets them started off on the right foot. And then pretty much after that, it's, they do need to do it on their own. And yes, some families still would like some more support throughout. And there are people who provide that kind of support, like ongoing support.
yeah.
But, I find the great majority of families, and that's why I tailored my business the way I did, because it's based on my volunteer work, is that, people really just need that first phone call, that first connection. And, this is my situation. What do I do?
Right.
And,
A little
you
boost.
spend an hour.
Yeah, and Julie mentioned before, but for those of you listening, she's in California. So, every state is a little bit different for requirements. How, like, now you're a pro, so it probably doesn't seem hard to you at all homeschooling in California, but do you think
Right.
it's intimidating for some people when they're starting out? I know California has kind of a reputation like being high regulation and
Right. So it's actually, we have, HSLDA has a list of or a map of all the
yes,
states, and
yes,
we're like a yellow state. We're
in
the
the
next
middle.
level to green. Yeah, we're the next.
Yeah.
I think it goes green, yellow, orange, red. So we're a yellow state. So we're
Yep.
not too bad. So, and it's really easy. And yeah, you're right. Like, it's really easy for somebody who, is like, this is what I'm doing, and this is the path I'm taking. But like, people who either are forced to homeschool for some reason or another, or people who are coming to homeschooling under more, traumatic circumstances, whether that's an illness, whether it's bullying, whether it's state laws preventing them from being a part of their school community. It just it's heavy. It weighs heavy on you. And so it really does help sometimes to have somebody to kind of like, show you exactly what to do and where to go and what to fill out. And for those families, I often recommend what we have is the private school satellite program option, because it gives them all the independence of the private school option, but it gives them basically none of the work of it, which is minimal, and it's not that big of a deal. It really isn't. It's very easy to manage, but it's just one less thing. And then they have a touch point person, somebody that they can connect to, and it just makes it it makes their experience transitioning through a lot easier.
Yeah, that sounds like in Florida we have a similar, like, if you actually notify the public school that you're homeschooling, it's slightly more difficult. It's still not hard than if like I registered, there actually is like a private school, but she calls it like unschooling, because you basically do nothing. But like once you register with her, like you do nothing. So that sounds like a similar kind of deal with that. I want to hear more. So let's talk more about what is the name of your conference that's coming up.
It's called Homeschool Connection Conference, because I wanted people to really focus on connecting with each other, and reconnecting with old friends. And I feel like we've been missing that for a little too long over these last few years. And, that just, again, I'm not great at naming things. So I was like, I just want to call it what it is this time.
Right.
Well,
like, sometimes that's the best. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It is. So, it was the working name for quite some time, and then it just became the actual name just because it ended up sticking.
So I love that you have the options of in person. So if there are people out in California who are, ready to just travel out there in the next couple of weeks, can you hear me?
Wait. Somebody calling me.
Okay.
I missed you. You got muted and a call came in.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. I was just saying, I love that you have the both options, the in-person and the online. I think that's awesome. And so I was saying, if there's anyone that's just ready to get in a plane and go to California, you can get out there. It sounds like it would be amazing to be there in person.
Oh
but
my
you have
goodness,
the
we have the
online
best plan.
option too. And it sounds like the online is super affordable too, from what I was seeing.
Yeah, it is only $20.
That's
And yeah, for all that content, and you have it recorded and you get to hold on to it and come back to it whenever you want. We've got a whole bunch of vendors. And so this is where the real value comes in, I think, is that all our vendors are offering conference specials. And so you can get to connect with really great vendors and then, receive a discount or
When you say
whatever.
vendors, is it like curriculum? Like what kind of vendors?
So we've got a whole bunch of different vendors. Let me see if I can pull up the vendor hall for a quick second.
Okay.
So I can see what I'm talking about here.
Okay, awesome.
Um,
I know you have a lot of speakers lined up too that look
yeah.
amazing.
So we do have some curriculum offerings. We have some organizations. We have HSLDA is going to be there. We also have classes, and we have a PSP, maybe two. We'll have a couple of those PSPs for our California peeps.
What's
And
PSP?
that's the private school satellite program I was mentioning before.
Gotcha. Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And uh, nature programs and booksellers, and this is about half of it. So we're still
Very
adding
cool.
to the vendor hall. We've got, a bunch of our speakers will be represented in the vendor hall, so you can follow up with them through that.
Right. And it's a Monday through Thursday, and there'll be speakers every day.
Yes. There will be some sort of speaker or presentation every day. Monday is the first day. It's kind of a slow day as far as all the speakers, but Tuesday and Wednesday are the heavy days with speakers. Okay. And then Thursday is our, which I think, if you're tuning in online, I would still want to see it. It's going to be, hopefully, if everything goes right with technology, our slideshow.
Cool.
Because we should be able to, with our awesome Whova app, get our conference goers to upload photos of that they'd like to share with the event. And of course,
fun.
We event organizers will be doing the same, and we will get them up and hopefully get a chance to show them in some sort of slideshow and end of conference special.
Awesome. I'm just looking at your so like I said, if you go to tentoad.com, you can get to all of this information. I know we're kind of throwing a lot out there. But right on the homepage, she has the Homeschool Connection Conference. You just can click on that to see all the information and the speakers and the schedule. Everything's there. And from there, you can register. So I think I think it'd be great for people that are in California, and I'll try to get this to people I know that are out in California, and just anyone who wants to online. I see, I know, I said Edith Ubuntu. I know her, and I know Sue Patterson is going to be there. Oh, and
Lainey
Roya.
Liberty. And Roya and Lainey Liberty. Do you know Lainey? She's the World Schooling teen mentoring. She does such wonderful teen mentoring stuff. I absolutely love her. My kid has benefited from her. We're planning on hopefully she'll do some more teen World School teen trips in the future. She's doing one right now. She's doing her family summit and her teen World School trip. So I hope she does more of that, because she is doing more of the teen mentoring stuff these days than the world schooling stuff. So
awesome. Yeah. I love that.
It's awesome. She's great.
All right, let's I think we're doing pretty good here. What is your vision for the future? Like what do you see for Tentoad, or just your family?
You're hilarious.
Just homeschooling. I know it's a big question.
You're hilarious.
It's a big question.
It's a huge question, and I actually have an incredible answer. I envision me being part of a project that I have already mapped out that will truly disrupt the system and put education into the hands of the parent once again. And it's an awesome business plan that I have, replicable, scalable model for. For lack of a better word, I call them homeschool community centers / co-working spaces. So
Yes.
It's a place for parents to come and work, and it's a place for kids, and it's different than most other
Like a Sudbury model or something.
no, not quite a
No,
Sudbury model.
I'm saying it's different than
Right.
that.
It's different than that. It's
Yeah.
different than a Sudbury model, but it's also different than most like homeschooling resource centers where, so I'm going to give everything away here. This is my business plan. I don't really care. Because here's the thing.
It's
Here's the
okay if
thing.
other
It's
people do it, great, right? We
exactly,
need everyone
exactly.
to do
That's how I
it.
feel. That's exactly how I feel. So I'm totally open, and I tell everybody my whole business plan,
Okay.
which I don't care. So this is what I do. This is what makes it different than everything else that's out there, is that it runs like a co-working space, and it runs like a family membership club. So here in California,
Okay.
we don't enroll, we won't be enrolling them in a school or a daycare. They will be part of this family-owned cooperative almost, but it's like I said, a co-working space.
Okay.
And so we own the space. We own the space. And what happens is we, like people who are subcontractors or independent vendors, they come and they teach in our space. People would be able to sign up through our website still with these contracted vendors, but basically it goes through the vendor. The signups basically will go through independent vendors.
Okay.
And we'll also offer additional things like community events, mom's night out, all kinds of really fun stuff. But again, focusing on the community center aspect of it. So again, it's not a school, it's not a daycare, it's a community center. It's a place for families to come together, and also have the opportunity to take anything from art to math to karate to dance to anything that you would see offered in the community, but you would get to do it together in a common ground shared space.
That is a huge vision, and that's why you are a true Rise Up visionary. I knew it would be a good question to ask you. I love it. I know there's like so many, and with a big vision like that, it's like just get started. I think start small. And the thing that jumped into my head when you were talking is like I don't know if you've looked into like PMAs at all.
So yeah, it doesn't need to be a PMA.
Doesn't
need to
okay.
be a PMA. And honestly, I don't think PMA, we can get into this another time, but I don't think PMA actually protects you any more than our already existing homeschooling laws do. Which are very solid. But yeah, there are definitely other levels and aspects to it of how we manage the whole thing. It's an exciting endeavor, but it's hard to start small with something like this because again, it's a community center, and if you don't have the whole community there to begin with, I was actually had that. So here's the thing: I actually had the chance to start small by subletting a space at another private school, and so that was the opportunity to start small and kind of build the program as as a working model. But here's the thing: I am a homeschool parent, and I am not discounting anybody who's a homeschool parent who runs a business, but I don't know how to run a business. For this to be successful, it needs to be run by somebody who knows how to run a business. It really does. And I do think that has a role in why so many of these really amazing resource centers or what do they call them? These micro schools, all these things, like how they don't become more popular is because most of the time they're run by parents. And when their kids are done using it, they're done being involved in it, and it tends to fall by the wayside. Or again, it's just run by a parent who doesn't know how to run a business, doesn't know how to do marketing, doesn't know how to do all the things, and everything takes 10 times longer. Like that's how I'm doing it with this conference. I don't know how to do a conference. Just kidding. I mean, I do. I've done some conferences, seriously. And my partners have done so many conferences. But this is our first time
your first
doing
big
a
one.
Yeah. And, I've been on the board of directors of an organization who's put on major conferences. And so has one of my partners. We've both put on major conferences as part of other teams. It's fine. But, this isn't my job. This isn't something like, I'm not the conference coordinator person, right? Like, but, between my partners and I and all our experience, having attended and participated in the organization of conferences, this is our first go around. So, we're excited. We hope, to be building something new here. We're
Yeah,
very excited.
I'm
The
excited for you.
programming is just phenomenal. Really, we couldn't be more pleased with how this has kind of evolved, and the hotel itself is just beautiful. It's just a great
Awesome.
way to get away, take a road trip with the family. Come on, join us. Come see us.
Yes, do it. Well, Julie, this has been so fun, and I'm really excited for your conference, and I am even
Thank you.
more excited for this grand vision that you just shared with us. And I want to let all of our Rise Up Visionaries know that Julie and I will be speaking again soon in my Gather and Get Moving group about more about kind of COVID and relationship stuff that is just more intimate. We want to keep it a little more private. So if you're not over there yet, I think you should get there because we're going to have a really fun talk with that. I don't know if fun is the best word, but it'll be interesting for sure. And just kind of dig into that because I think so many of us are dealing with still the fallout from the last 3 years, and just
For sure.
a lot of people have had strained relationships and things like that. And this is something Julie and I have also spoke about that we would like to continue talking about to see if we can help each other with the healing, because I truly believe when we heal ourselves and we heal our relationships, that we are healing the world too. So, yeah. Well, thank you,
Thank
Julie.
you.
This was great. And again, hentoad.com, go check out that conference. Is there anything else you want to share before we say goodbye?
Oh, no, I think that's it. I
All
hope
right.
you all have a really wonderful day ahead of you, wherever you are. And thanks for having me again, Susan.
All right. Bye.
Bye.